Success isn't overnight, it's when every day you get a little better than the day before. On that note, good evening, everyone. We welcome you all to the second edition of our event, Let's Talk Live. Today, we will talk to our special guests about their experiences at the Code for Good hackathon and indulge them thereafter in a discussion.
At the Code for Good hackathon, organized by JP Morgan Chase and Company, participants collaborate with other coders to develop innovative technological solutions for non-profit organizations and also learn about starting a technology-based career while being guided by the sharpest minds of the industry. Our speakers are former participants of this competition and have also bagged internships through this and are here to mentor the next potential winners.
So, without further ado, we would like to welcome our first speaker for the day, Mr. Shivam Goyal. He is an engineer intern at Google, and has been inspiring students all around by indulging in more than 25 technical talks and sessions. He has mentored and judged at 30 plus hackathons. He is well experienced in Flutter, cloud, and security.
Next up, we have Mr. Utkarsh Mishra. Utkarsh is the winner of Smart India Hackathon 2019 and the finalist of the Genesis blockchain. He has deep understanding of the fields of data science, artificial intelligence, etc. He is also skilled in languages like Golang, Solidity, and Python. Utkarsh is an upcoming intern at JP Morgan Chase and Company.
Coming next, we have Mr. Shaurya Khanna. Shaurya is also an upcoming intern at JP Morgan Chase. He has expertise in various fields like Android development, Flutter, etc., and has handled projects like the Flutter Quiz app and MediAid. He is also proficient in blockchain and languages like C++, JavaScript, and Solidity. Welcome all.
Now, we are moving on to the most awaited part of our event, the discussion with our esteemed speakers. So let's jump right into it. My first question is, as most people are unaware of what exactly to do at a hackathon and its purpose, so what is an hackathon?
Okay, so if we talk about what's a hackathon, but if we go by the definition, like a hackathon is an event usually hosted by any tech firm or any organization where programmers generally get together for a short period of time to collaborate on a project, or they participate, work rapidly, and often work without sleep to achieve their task. As the events generally only last 24 hours or 36 hours or take place over a weekend only. So it's a highly paced event where the programmers code at a very high rapid pace and deliver the product, present against the jury and get judged. So that's what the formal definition when we talk about hackathons.
So how can we choose a hackathon to participate in? What is an ideal hackathon for a beginner, for a middle stager, and for a professional?
Right. So as we know that every hackathon is not worth participating in, right? You need to do some research on the hackathon. Firstly, if it's gonna add some value to your CV or not. Then, of course, it's credibility by seeing the previous versions of that hackathon. And then most important part, by seeing that clarity, if there is some clarity in problem statements or not, if it's specific to something or not, right? So these are some basic things which you need to see before participating in hackathon. Right. Again, there are broadly three types of hackathons. First of all, there are university level hackathons. For example, if any university is, organizing a hackathon, then it's called a university level hackathon. They are called for beginners level, right? You can gain experience from that, you can learn from that, but there are only some university hackathons which are really good to add some value to your CV, right? Then comes your industry level hackathons, which big firms and industry like Honda, like NEC, they organize their hackathons. They give you problem statement which is really a problem in their firm, right? You need to solve them and impress them. The third type of hackathons are the most important hackathons, and I suggest everyone to participate in, which is the hackathons organized by big companies, which begs you some kind of intern or PPOs, right? So they are very easy to crack if you have some knowledge and experience, and if you perform well, you can gain some internship or PPO also. So these are general categories of hackathons.
Okay, since all of you have cleared the Code for Good hackathon in different teams, So why don't you all talk about the different problem statements you all encountered last year?
Okay, so let me start by saying that the Code for Good hackathon was the third type of hackathon that Utkarsh just talked about. So by this hackathon, you can get an internship or even a PPO. So about the problem statements, this year we were given the problem statements by NGOs. So there were like 7 or 8 NGOs who gave us problem statements that were real world problems that those NGOs are facing. So we were supposed to analyze those and start working on them. On the previous day, all the NGOs gave us a brief about what the NGO works on and what are the problem statements, but they did not give us the specific problem statements on the day before. So the next day, when the hackathon started, they gave us the problem statements and they gave us some time to choose from. Like we had to prioritize what problem statements are we going to work on. So like we were supposed to choose 5 of the given problem statements, and we would get any one of them on the basis of first come first serve. Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've talked about the problem statements, I think the next thing we should talk about is the team formation. So, according to you, what should be the factors to consider when we are forming a team for our hackathon?
Okay, so team formation is by far the most important step which you need to perform while participating in a hackathon. I would suggest you should form a team of 2 3 people who will be core of your team in each and every hackathon which you will go through the entire duration of this university, right? So you need to form a group of 2 3 people who are really enthusiastic about technology and learning new skills, right? And if there is a hackathon which requires some specific skills which we people don't know, so then you need to get some additional teammate, but the core should remain same, right? And the additional teammate should be taken in such a way that it should align to the the problem statement. So this should be your formation of teams.
Okay. So, like, what are the major topics that need to be covered to participate in a hackathon? What would be the starter pack for a hackathon?
Okay, so to talk about the startup pack, there are not some points that you will keep in mind and you'll win a hackathon. It's not like that. So it depends on various hackathons. So I think I will give you my experience. The main thing that me and my team do is that we will go on the hackathon website and see the themes. All the hackathons give themes beforehand. Most of them do not give the problem statements, but they do tell us about the themes. So you should choose the themes that your team is comfortable with, and after that, that is the I think the most important part. After that, during the hackathon, the main most important part is brainstorming. So once you get a problem statement, you should not directly start working on the problem statement. First, you should give some time and discuss within your teammates like who is going to do what. And also, many hackathons give you a MVP, like the minimum viable product that they want you to make. So rather than making a full-fledged product that is very difficult in a 24 or a 48-hour hackathon, you should try making the minimum things that they're asking. And that is the I think the starter pack for a hackathon.
So, as Git is an important tool in every developer's life, how much Git should one know to like participate in a hackathon? How much should it be enough?
Mhm. So talking about Git is indeed an important tool and is required in most of the hackathons, but it's not like that. Without Git you can't ace a hackathon. It basically improves your productivity, and as in this virtual setting we are, so in this virtual setting it's easy to collaborate while using a version control system, so you do not need to send the codes to you via drive or something. Like in physical hackathons we generally used to share the codes with pen drives maybe, right? So that is not possible in the virtual setting. So knowing Git becomes very important part at this point of time. So in Git, like, you need not to be master of Git, you need not to know everything, but knowing basic things like how to push code, how to pull code, how to create pull requests, maybe how to create branches, how to work on those branches, all those stuff is necessary. Like if you are 4 team members, you can simply go ahead and create 4 branches, or you can create branches. If it's a long hackathon, you can create branches depending on the features, right? So it will make more sense. So Git obviously improves and saves your time. So in case if we are talking about a hackathon like Code for Good, right? So in these kind of hackathons, you only get like 8 hours of time. So in those 8 hours, you generally have 5 or 7 team members, and like copy pasting codes over drive and something that won't work. So having a version control system is the best. So and knowing it is important for a code for good like hackathon, because the organizer would themselves create a repository for you, and you would be required to push everything over there and collaborate only there. So you can't create other repository or do something like that, right? So Git is important in these kind of hackathons where there is a necessity to use Git, because you literally don't have any option to use any other version control system, or you don't have an option to even chat with your teammates via another platform, right? So Git is important that way. You can simply take a crash course, something, read a blog on Git, or maybe something like that, right? That would be suffice for this hackathon, like investing 2 or 3 hours on that. Yeah.
Okay, those are some great insights on the requirement of Git for a hackathon. So, coming back to the team formation and team planning, so times are tough, we all know, and most of our interactions have been online with our teammates. So, how does one manage to work with a team they have never met in person before?
Okay, so to answer that, in Code for Good Hackathon, all your team members are, you don't know any of them. Like it may happen for some people that they are from same college, but mostly they're not. So it is important to, they give you some time to interact with your teammates, and that time is very important. Okay, so once you get to know all your teammates, you should discuss what are the technical proficiencies of each of the teammates, and you should divide your work accordingly. Like Utkarsh said, that there should be 2 or 3 people who manage the team. So you should, in the given time, you should discuss all between all the teammates, like who will be doing what. And after that, the most important thing, as I said, is brainstorming. Once you get to know the teammates, you should write points like who will do what part of the like if someone is doing front end, then what part, like 2 people are doing front end, then they should divide the pages. Like some first person will make the first 2 pages, a second person will make the second 2 pages, and interaction is very important. The most important thing for team formation, I think, is interaction. You should know what your teammates are doing at any point of time, so that if any point of time you face any problems, you can just discuss with them. That is, I think, very important.
Um, okay, so staying on the non-tech side only, so we are all very well aware of the importance of presenting our idea. So, what are the key points one should keep in mind at the time of the PPT presentation or any prior interview for that matter?
Right. So at the end, only thing which matters to judges is your pitches, right? Your prototype bugs, your loopholes in your solutions, right? Keep them with yourself. तो तुम प्रोटोटाइप जो बनाते हो, तो जब तुम प्रेजेंट करते हो तो प्रोटोटाइप सिर्फ इसलिए होता है कि तुम जो समझा रहे हो उसकी फंक्शनैलिटी तुम दिखा सको. यानी अगर तुम बोल रहे हो कि एक एलएमएस बनाया हम लोगों ने टीचर्स और स्टूडेंट्स के लिए, लॉगिन अलग अलग है, तो तुम ये दिखा सको कि ठीक है ऐसा दिखेगा, इसमें इस तरीके से अगर लॉगिन करेंगे तो टीचर लॉगिन हो जाएगा, इस तरीके से स्टूडेंट लॉगिन हो जाएगा और अलग अलग दिखेगा. ठीक है, उसमें अगर तुम इंटीग्रेशन और अंदर तक चले गए उसके कि भाई इसमें तो बग्स बहुत ज्यादा है, कैसे होगा, तो वो फिर तुम्हारा एक तुम लैग कर जाओगे काफी सारे फीचर्स बनाने में, राइट? तो प्रोटोटाइप सिर्फ उतना बनाओ कि जितना तुम्हें दिखाने में एक सफिशिएंट हो जाए कि हाँ जजेस को दिखा सको कि देखो इस तरीके से फीचर काम करता है. फुल्ली फंक्शनल प्रोटोटाइप मत बनाया करो, ठीक है, राइट? सो प्रेजेंटिंग योर सोल्यूशन इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बट मेकिंग प्रोटोटाइप फुल्ली फंक्शनल, डोंट फोकस ऑन दैट.
तो जैसे अगर मतलब बहुत सारी टेक्नोलॉजीज हैं जो हम यूज कर सकते हैं हैकाथॉन वगैरह में, तो जैसे इफ वन डजंट हैव एनी प्रीरिक्विजिट नॉलेज अबाउट अ टेक्नोलॉजी, सो हाउ कैन वन इम्प्लीमेंट दैट टेक्नोलॉजी इन द सॉल्यूशन?
Okay. Can you repeat the question, please, once?
Here, sure.
Yes, yeah.
If one doesn't have any prerequisite knowledge about a technology, how can they implement that technology in their solutions?
Okay, so if you don't have prior knowledge to any technology, what I would suggest is, like in general, the hackathons release themes or problem statements ahead of the hackathon, right? So if the hackathon is on a weekend, right, they will release the themes or whatever the problem statement is. They will release like 1 or 2 days ago, or at least 3 to 4 hours ago, right? So in that time, in either you have 1 day or 2 day or 3 or 4 hours, whatever time you have, you can simply head over to YouTube, watch some tutorials, read some blogs, something like that, right? So we obviously can't believe that everyone knows everything, right? So there might be something that you don't know, but I would suggest just pick problem statement that you already know things about, right? So if you don't know Android development, I would suggest to pick up a problem statement that has web development, doesn't have Android development, right? So that makes more sense. Don't be like, I would challenge myself and break things up. That's not going to happen in a time of like 12 hours or something like that, right? So I would suggest to go through short courses, crash courses. There are lots of available. That would make sense, right? And also, if you are like talking about from that perspective that you already don't know much about technology, like if you don't know web development, right? So what you can do is you can pick up templates simply, right? Use a template and add the things, and then just simply push it to whatever the live you are doing. So that would make more sense, right?
Okay. We have a question from the audience. Can you please talk about the projects you did during Code for Good hackathon?
Okay. So, talking about the projects, like we all were in different teams. So the teams were formed randomly from a set of people. So our projects were different. What we was that, as Shaurya mentioned, like we were given 9 to 10 of NGOs, and we were to choose from that. And we were simply to give our choices. What is the first choice? What is the second choice? Like that. So depending upon that, we were allotted problem space. So nothing much, was nothing much was not in our control. So we had very little but control over what was being allotted to us. So that was something that you should remember if you are participating in Code for Good. So the problem statement in general would not be according to you what you want, but it would be aligned to your skills in general, right? So that's how it gonna form. Also, the teams are gonna be like in a way that the skills are complementary to each other. So talking about the what the problem statements we had, my problem statement was from my NGO called Inquire Foundation. So what they were doing, they were basically going to schools that are available in their local vicinity, and there they were basically making the students who are in 8th standard, ninth standard, 10th standard, those kind of students, they are making them mentors. As they were like these students who were actually teaching other students who are in class. So you generally make a monitor in the class, right? So they were simply choosing someone from the entire class who is like more ambitious to teach people or has some leadership qualities in general, right? So they would choose 2 people from each class, and those students would teach other students like leadership skills and some maybe computer science or something like that, right? That is at their level. So that's an extracurricular activity that they have. So they were judging them based on the feedback that they get from the students, also the invigilators that were in place, the actual teachers that were in place, right, to judge those student mentors. So we were required to make a data ingestion platform that takes all this data, and basically a web platform that has form like a structure. You simply fill up the details and that's submitted, and you are getting some analytical view. So we were given very high level details of this, that you have this problem, you need to build anything you want, right? We are not given that you need to build a web platform, you need to build these analytics or something like that. It was like, there's a problem, we need a solution, so you need to be think of that, right? So I guess sure, I can go ahead next.
Yeah. So my problem statement was from the NGO named Sight and Life. So what we had to do was we were given some. My problem statement was mainly based on data, like machine learning and all. So we were given the problem statement like we were given some data, and on the basis of that we had to make a visualization of what we can predict through that data. And so the main thing in my problem statement was machine learning. And as you were saying in one question, like this was the problem statement that we had in our last priority. My teammates did not know anything about this. So that was the problem, like you were saying. We did everything on the spot. We changed our positions, we changed the roles that we were going to do. And on the spot, we decided what we all will do. And we did make our product, and it was good.
Utkarsh sir can go next.
Yeah, sure. So so my problem statement was also similar type. So they want a simple LMS system to be made, right? It was a simple problem statement. But what was required was, what was the problem was that our teammates were not at all, experienced in any of the skills which were required for, for example, if a backend is required, so I knew Django, but my teammates were not at all experienced with that. Also, they also didn't know about front end also, right? So they were zero about web development. Now, this was a problem, but but you will be guided by two mentors, right? They will be always present in your team meeting, and you will be 24/7 be working with that mentors. So they will be guiding you and seeing how you will be behave if this situation arise, right? They also know that all students don't have that skills, but then you have to give your best and show some skills which they are looking for. So if you see that, okay, I am the most intelligent person in the room, don't try to overpower them, but support them and say, okay, so you can learn from this tutorial, right? And you can make a simple feature, right? So help them, support them, and do your best. That's it.
Uh, as we just saw, leaving your comfort zone is always a challenge. And as you have all participated in so many hackathons and have varied experiences, so can you share some challenges you have been faced and how did you overcome those challenges?
Right. So my most challenging hackathon would be a NPCI hackathon, which was a problem statement of UPI. So UPI payments, right? So NPCI is governing all the UPI gateways. So they required a voice payment system. So you say pay 60 rupees to X person, right? So it transfers the amount to that person, right? So this was the problem statement, and we need to work on that. But we didn't have any experience of voice commands and voice recognition, then voice analysis. So it was a very challenging job, but through the span of 3 months, we have rigorous interaction with mentors and then people of NPCI, and we were a group of three people, so we worked hard, and it pays off. So yeah, we went Mumbai in their office and then worked for them. So yeah, it was a great experience and challenging as well.
Yeah, so if we talk about like challenges, like there are technical challenges, as Utkarsh said, there are like multiple of technical challenges. There are challenges that we don't, recognize ahead of time, right? So there are non-tech challenges that we face. Like if you are going for a physical hackathon, you might miss your flight, right? You might miss your bus. You might, your laptop isn't working or something like that, right? HDMI isn't connected. Things like that happen in hackathons, right? So when you are presenting, it's like the presentation is not going on, right? So these kind of things you should remember as well. So always double check whenever you are going for a hackathon. Just double check before presentations, before everything. If you are traveling for a hackathon, just remember that there are lots of things, there are lots of logistical things that you need to take care of. It's not like that they will run in the first one. So it has happened with us multiple times. We have been to multiple hackathons where we just, like, the laptop dies, so you can't do anything, like everything was on there. So these kind of things you should remember as well. So if the challenge is like, you should not be like that. If the API doesn't work, that's not the only challenge. If the laptop itself doesn't work, what will you do, right? So that's the thing. Yeah.
Right. Since we are on the topic of winning hackathons and all, so we all know that self-analyzing does give you the best reviews. One is oneself best critic. So I
Hmm.
want to know from you guys, how do you guys evaluate the worth of your project and know whether it will win or not?
Okay, so when we talk about the worth of projects, like, सभी को पता होता है कि what they have put into the project, right? So मतलब if there is a hackathon, like it's a 48 hours hackathon and you have just worked for 12 hours, then you know that you're not going to win because you have not put that of efforts into it, right? So the first thing is that you know what you have done and what's important, right? Other part, when you talk about, on the self reflection part, right? So how do you self reflect on, is your project going to win? Like, you have invested everything you wanted, but so how do you go about that? First thing is, you should look at the judging criteria, right? Every hackathon has a fixed judging criteria that has 5 to 6 points that states that this has this much weightage, maybe, right? So you just evaluate your project on that basis, that this much is this much is this, right? How you are scoring on these, if you judge yourself, right? If you were the judge, how would you do that, right? How would you react to this feature, or how would you react to this presentation, right? So these are things that you should keep in mind while self-evaluating, because self-evaluation is, everyone has their own way to do it, right? It's not a fixed way that this always works. there's nothing like that, right? So you should always be, inventing ways to look upon how you need to, you know evaluate yourself, and this comes hand in hand with what efforts you are, right? Efforts, luck, everything works, plays a role in the hackathon, right? So yeah.
Right. Those are some great advice, words coming from your mouth. So we all know there is a lot that goes into winning a hackathon. And now, if I focus only on Code for Good, so how does one prepare for Code for Good? And any advice you would like to give the first timers out there?
Oh, okay. So I think the most important aspect of Code for Good is team bonding, because to make any product, you should have an understanding between your teammates. So that is the most important thing in Code for Good. After that, you should know how to evaluate the problem statement. What are the MVPs that the NGOs is asking you to make? You should work on that. Okay, and also many people think like if their teammates don't know anything, they also will not get the internship. Like it is not important to make the full product also. Like for example in my team, हम लोगों का पूरा project चला नहीं था. We showed some part that was working and some part that we could not integrate, but still some of my teammates got the internship. The more important thing is you should show them कि तुम लोग क्या काम कर रहे हो. तुम लोगों को अपना contribution दिखानी है. जैसे उत्कर्ष ने कहा, हर टाइम तुम्हारे साथ 2 mentors होंगे, तो तुम आपस में डिस्कस करो. कोई प्रॉब्लम्स आ रही है, मेंटर से डिस्कस करो, अपना इनपुट दो. दैट इज द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट थिंग. तो तुम्हारा प्रोडक्ट बने चले वो तो बात की बात है, एंड दैट इज नॉट इम्पोर्टेंट. सो या.
Right. So, yeah, those are some great words. So, we have a question in the YouTube comment box. So, Abhay is saying that, sir, you mentioned your team didn't have the required skill set. So, what is that required skill set?
See, like I talked about, we had to choose from from 9 or 10 problem statements. We had to choose 5. So according to priority, हम लोगों ने first priority obviously उसको देंगे जो हमें लगता है हमें आती है चीज़, और in that order. बट हमें क्या हुआ, हमें अपनी लास्ट प्रायोरिटी वाली प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट मिल गई. तो उसमें हमने लोगों को किसी को कुछ आता ही नहीं था. तो फिर हम लोगों ने अपना काम डिवाइड करके, अब ये जो जैसे क्वेश्चन था कि कोई रिक्वायर्ड स्किल सेट है, तो इसका कोई स्पेसिफिक आंसर नहीं है. ये तो यार प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट पे डिपेंड करता है. अब मेरी वाली प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट थी वो ज़्यादा एमएल फोकस थी. किसी की प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट हो सकती है जिसमें विजुअलाइजेशन ज़्यादा फोकस हो, या जिसमें वेब वाला पार्ट ज़्यादा फोकस हो. तो ये तुम्हें ऑन द स्पॉट ही पता चलेगा एक बार जब तुम्हें प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स मिल जाती हैं. तो तुम आपस में डिस्कस करो. जैसे हमारे साथ हुआ, हमें किसी को कुछ आता नहीं था, तो हम लोगों ने उसी टाइम अपना काम डिवाइड किया. और जैसे शिवम ने कहा, यूट्यूब वगैरह पे हर जगह ब्लॉग्स वगैरह हैं जहाँ से आप सीख सकते हो, कम टाइम में भी सीख सकते हो. तो फिर वहाँ से हमने साथ साथ कर करके सीखा.
Okay. So now let's talk business, the real deal for Code for Good Hackathon. What does it take to bag an internship at JPMC? Why Code for Good Hackathon?
Okay, so if we talk about the internship, like there isn't exact criteria what they're judging on exactly, right? So the hackathon part and the internship part are both are different parts, right? So the hackathon results are basically announced after the hackathon itself on like, I guess the hackathon was on Sunday for us and the results were announced on Monday, right? So something like that was, but we got the result of the internship almost around like 10 or 15 days after that, right? So both are distinct parts, and the judging criteria that I think comprises of is that the one-on-one talk that the mentors do with you during the hackathon, right? So there is a one-on-one session of like 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes between the hackathon, like where the mentors take you to a breakout room where they talk to you about, ask you 3 4 questions. Why, how do you see like JP Morgan is, where do you see yourself in some time, or what you're expecting out of this hackathon, why you are here, like something like that question. Like most of the questions are behavioral questions. They might pull up their resume as well, right? So that might happen, right? So they might ask, what's this project on your resume? But these kind of thing has happened with students, like. So these are things that students are judged on, but exactly they haven't mentioned what they're judging on. I guess the questions you solved in the first round, maybe like the coding test they had, this might have some impact. The overall performance over on the hackathon, your leadership qualities, how you are taking the initiative, all those things matter as well, right? So it's not like that you are just sitting around and you even won the hackathon, right? But it's not guaranteed that you will get an internship. Like both are distinct things, right? So it happened with me as well. Like Like for my team, only we were like 5 people, and only 3 of them got PPO even after winning the hackathon. So that's how things work. They judge individually, and they are always during the hackathon marking your marks on their sheets of paper or whatever it is, right? So they are keeping track. So you should be attentive across the time, like give your 100% on there, right? So that would make the best after. If you give the best of yourself, so it will make the fruitful results. Yeah.
Okay, we have another question from the audience. Do you need to be in the top three to get an internship offer?
No, that's not. There is
So
nothing like.
yeah, I will answer that.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
see, Shivam's team won the hackathon. So and my team and Utkarsh's team, we did not win the hackathon. See, it doesn't matter if you win or not. It's the like Shivam said, there are two mentors that will evaluate you all the time. So उन्होंने सिर्फ इतना देखना है कि तुम लोग काम कैसे कर रहे हो, कौन टीम के साथ ठीक से काम कर रहा है, जिसको क्या, उनको ये इससे मैटर नहीं करता कि आपका प्रोजेक्ट चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा. That is also a point, but that comes afterwards. So the main thing is what is your input, and that is the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you win or not. And getting an internship and winning a hackathon in Code for Good are two different things.
एग्जैक्टली एंड एक और चीज कि हो सकता है तुम लोग जीत जाओ बट फिर भी इंटर्नशिप ना मिले. कम है चांसेस बट ऐसा हो सकता है क्योंकि वो लोग ऐसा नहीं देख रहे हैं कि कौन जीतता है उसको देनी है इंटर्नशिप. इट्स लाइक दे आर लुकिंग फॉर सम स्किल्स, राइट? इफ यू शो देम, if you show some soft skills and also some tech skills, then only they'll take you. Even if your team fails to do anything, then also you can bag internship on the basis of your soft skills and past experience and knowledge, right? So it's not that top
Yeah.
three teams are only getting internship.
On our campus as well, like people have got good internships even they didn't win, like, and they performed worst as well, some of the teams like that. And on the campuses, like, there are lots of teams that bagged internship like that, because their individual performance was good, but there were some teams that were not even able to present their idea, right? That they didn't had that much idea, but their individual performance was good. So that makes sense as well at times. Basically, मतलब यही होता है, they are looking for those qualities की if you join them, you will be working on a team and you will collaborating like that only for the project, right? So that would make more sense to judge on those qualities rather than simply winning or not. So yeah.
Okay. Another question from the audience. Code for Good has been postponed this year since there is no exact skill set required. What should we spend our time learning during this time?
Sir, I think
Sir,
you're muted.
you are muted. You're not audible.
Okay, just give me a second. Yeah. Okay, so if we talk about the skill set, as I was saying, so there is no exact skill set as Gunita has mentioned, but like there are some skill set, generic skill set that you should know, like you should know web or you should know Android, like something like that. You need something to build the front end, right? It's not like that you're gonna build the front end using machine learning, right? So you should know web development. That's a bare necessity. You should know web, right? So because most of the projects would be on web, so web is necessary. Spend time on that. And if you can go with Android or iOS or some hybrid framework like Flutter, that would be awesome, right? Other than that, most of the problems generally, because in these hackathons, what they are doing is generally relying on the data. So it's a data driven approach. So for data driven approach, we generally need dashboards, analytics to analyze what's been happening actually, right? So you will require some machine learning or data analytics skill, right? So to it's not machine learning exactly if you simply know how to use matplotlib, how to draw charts simply from. If you do it in Excel, that's okay as well, but it should be live and reflecting, right? So that makes sense. If you know little bit of Python and you are able to use matplotlib, create charts, embed that into a website, create an analytical portal, that would make more sense. So that makes more impact rather than simply deploying a website without analytics. Yeah.
जैसे मतलब randomly you get sorted into your teams and you don't exactly know your teammates beforehand. So how to solve conflicts that arise during the hackathon between the team members, or if you have faced any blocker in the project itself?
राइट सो ऐसा ही होता है, रैंडम टीम्स होती हैं, ठीक है? अब हो सकता है किसी टीम में ऐसे लोग आ जाएं जो कि बहुत ज्यादा नॉलेजेबल हो, सारी एक्सपीरियंस जो है हैकाथॉन्स में, राइट? तो वो टीम ऑफ कोर्स अच्छा कर सकती है, राइट? कर सकती है. बट कभी कभी ऐसा होता है कि तुम्हारी अच्छी टीम आई है फिर भी मतलब लोगों में लड़ाई हो गई क्योंकि उन लोगों की पॉइंट्स मैच नहीं करते, राइट? सो ऐसा नहीं है कि तुम लोग अपना पॉइंट मत रखो, बट हाँ रखो, बट एक सिस्टम होता है, एक तरीका होता है पॉइंट रखने का, राइट? लड़ना नहीं होता, बट हाँ अपना पॉइंट रखना होता है विथ फैक्ट्स, राइट? और कभी कभी कॉम्प्रोमाइज भी करना पड़ता है, राइट? और साथ में मेंटर होता है, तो वो सब चीजें मॉनिटर कर रहा होता है, ठीक है? तो तुम लोगों को किसी को ओवर पावर नहीं करना है, बट अपना पॉइंट भी रखना है, वरना फिर वो मतलब एक तरीके से बैक में जाता है। दूसरी चीज, अगर जितनी भी लड़ाई करनी है वो आपस में करो, ठीक है? पर जब वो प्रेजेंट कर रहा है तब बीच में उसे इंटरप्ट मत करो, बीच में अपना पॉइंट मत रखो। जब तुम प्रेजेंट कर रहे हो तब ऐसा टीम प्रेजेंट कर रहे हो, तो उस समय कोई भी कॉन्फ्लिक्ट सामने नहीं आनी चाहिए। तो पहले जितना करना है कर लो, जितना लड़ना है लड़ लो, बट इसको सॉल्व करने के लिए एक एक मैच्योर तरीके से तुम्हें डील करना पड़ेगा। दैट्स इट।
वही है, मतलब ऐसा होता है, वी हैव सीन इन द प्रेजेंटेशंस। होता है क्या है कि मतलब like we have decided pre-decided that I am gonna pitch, and होता क्या है कि एक बंदा बीच में से कूद के आ जाता है, like I want to present, right? So yeah, ये मैंने बनाया है, this is my thing, I will present it, right? Those ego issues that should not happen. If those happen, like you should not be मतलब तुम्हें भी ऐसा नहीं होना है कि भाई मैं ही प्रेजेंट करूंगा, मैंने डिसाइड किया था, ठीक है? तो यू शुड पॉज एज वेल, ठीक है? दूसरा इंसान कर रहा है तो ओके, इट्स ओके, यू शुड नॉट मतलब अपना इंप्रेशन खराब नहीं करना है एट द इंस्टेंस, क्योंकि वही है जो जज कर रहा है। दैट्स द पॉइंट वेयर यू आर विनिंग और लूजिंग द हैकाथन, लाइक इट्स 5 मिनट्स। अगर 5 मिनट तुमने मचा दिया तो मचा दिया, फिर नहीं होता कुछ। दैट्स द थिंग।
हाँ, तो वैसे इसमें सर ने कहा कि जब आप प्रेजेंट कर रहे हो तो मैटर नहीं करता यार कौन प्रेजेंट कर रहा है कौन नहीं प्रेजेंट कर रहा, तो तुम पहले से डिसाइड करके रखो। जैसे मेरे साथ क्या हुआ था, मेरे लैपटॉप में इतनी चीज़ें खुली थी, मेरा लैपटॉप स्लो हो गया था, तो फिर हम लोगों ने किसी और के लैपटॉप से स्क्रीन प्रेजेंट की, कोई और बंदा बोल रहा है, अलग अलग पार्ट्स डिवाइड कर लिए। अब इसमें ये ज़रूरी नहीं है कि जो चीज़ तुम्हें नहीं है वो तुम्हें ही प्रेजेंट करनी है। उन्होंने जज करने टाइम, जब आप यहाँ पे प्रेजेंटेशन के टाइम पे आते हो तो उन्होंने तुम्हारा ओवरऑल प्रोजेक्ट देखना है, ओवरऑल टीम वर्क देखना है कि हुआ क्या है, बना क्या है। उन्हें इससे फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा उस टाइम पे कि किसने क्या किया है, वो तो तुम्हारे मेंटर्स को पता ही है। तो ये मैटर, जैसे ये वाले पॉइंट्स बिल्कुल ठीक है कि बीच में मत घुसो, जो बोल रहा है उसको बोलने दो, या पहले से डिसाइड करके दो कौन क्या बोलेगा।
मतलब इसमें एक चीज और होती है कि देयर आर टू वेज टू प्रेजेंट इन जनरल। कि एक वे होता है कि यार मान लो 6 टीम मेंबर्स हैं, तो हर किसी का 1 1 मिनट डिवाइडेड है एंड दे आर डूइंग, ठीक है, प्रेजेंटिंग। और एक होता है कि 6 मिनट है तो एक बंदा जाएगा, सब कुछ ही वुड टॉक अबाउट एवरीथिंग। और इसमें मतलब काफी सारी चीजें हैं। वी हैव सीन एट हैकाथॉन्स। होता है क्या है कि 6 मिनट में डिवाइड किया है, 6 लोग हैं, तो व्हाट्स हैपनिंग इज कि एक बंदा आ रहा है, वो अपनी स्क्रीन प्रेजेंट कर रहा है, देन बोल रहा है, वो चला जा रहा है अपनी स्क्रीन लेके, फिर सेकंड पर्सन इज कमिंग, देन ही इज प्रेजेंटिंग विद हिज स्क्रीन। तो मतलब वो एकदम से ऐसा हो जाता है कि 10 सेकंड तो स्क्रीन प्रेजेंट में खराब हो जा रही है। जजेस देख रहे हैं कि ये क्या हो रहा है, हमें कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है, ठीक है? तो वो चीज नहीं होनी चाहिए। इधर एक बंदा ठीक है प्रेजेंट कर रहा है और बाकी लोग बोल रहे हैं, दैट कुड बी फाइन, बट मतलब इन जनरल आई फ्रॉम माय पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू आई प्रेफर कि भाई एक बंदा पूरी पूरी प्रेजेंटेशन दिया है। ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता कि जो प्रेजेंट करेगा उसको ज्यादा नंबर मिलेंगे, ठीक है? ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता। जो ये लोग सोचते हैं कि भाई मैं प्रेजेंट करूंगा, मेरे को ज्यादा नंबर मिलेंगे, मैं जीतूंगा, मेरे को पैसा मिलेगा, ठीक है? डोंट थिंक दैट वे, डोंट बी सेल्फिश ऑन दीज थिंग्स, राइट? सो दे आर जजिंग ऑन योर टीम वर्क, दे आर नॉट जजिंग ऑन कि भाई कौन बोल रहा है, कौन क्या कर रहा है। सो you need to take care of those stuff as well. Yeah.
Right. So, Chirag Jain has sent a rather interesting question. He asks that what kind of things should we discuss with the mentors to gain a good impression on them?
Okay. So इसमें ऐसा नहीं है कि you ask your mentor how are you or what are you doing, what's your work. You should not be going into his personal life. That's not none of your matter, obviously. But what we should discuss, so you need to discuss your technical. You can basically discuss your technical doubts, right? You can't be discussing anything else, right? You might want to discuss like how's the culture in the company, these kind of questions maybe, right? So how we do is generally, if you are in a code for good like hackathon, you can simply request the mentor to come into a breakout room and then talk there, right? जिससे कि एटलीस्ट बाकी लोग जो पार्टिसिपेट कर रहे हैं, दे आर नॉट मतलब उनको परेशानी ना हो, दे आर नॉट डिस्टर्ब। दैट्स द मेन मोटिव। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब कुछ भी पूछ सकते हो, बट ऐसा भी नहीं है कि दे आर इम्प्रेस्ड बाय इफ यू आस्क अ डाउट तो वो इम्प्रेस हो जाएंगे। दे वुड बी इम्प्रेस्ड बाय योर लीडरशिप स्किल्स, योर इनिशिएटिव टेकिंग स्किल्स, ऑल दिस थिंग्स, राइट? सो डाउट्स पूछने से नो वन गेट्स इम्प्रेस्ड इन जनरल।
राइट। और एक और चीज कि मेंटर्स जो हैं वो तुम्हारे टेक्निकल डाउट्स जो हैं वो नहीं लेंगे, क्योंकि ऑब्वियसली वो एक स्किल पे होते हैं। जैसे मेरे मेंटर जो था वो डॉट नेट पे था, राइट तो अब मैं उससे नहीं पूछ सकता ना फ्रंट एंड बैक एंड का। तो वो लोग सिर्फ इसलिए होते हैं कि तुम वो देख सकें कि पहली बात तो कोई कॉन्फ्लिक्ट ना हो ज्यादा, दूसरी बात कौन क्या काम कर रहा है वो नोट करते हैं हर चीज, हर एक स्टेटमेंट तुम्हारी नोट होती है, वो हर एक तुम्हें हर एक चीज में देखता रहेगा, ठीक है, कि तुम क्या कर रहे हो। दूसरी चीज, तुम लोगों को उससे डाउट पूछोगे भी अगर किसी भी टेक्निकल रिलेटेड, तो वो ये कहेगा ठीक है मैं एक्सपर्ट को बुलाता हूँ, राइट, एक्सपर्ट आएगा तुम उससे पूछोगे बस एक्सपर्ट चला जाएगा, राइट। तो तुम मेंटर्स को इस तरह नहीं कर सकते इम्प्रेस के कुछ पूछ के, बट तुम लोगों को करना क्या होता है कि कुछ ऐसी चीजें लाओ सामने जो कि स्टेप्स फॉलो, मतलब एक तरीके से जैसे इंडस्ट्री में काम होता है उस तरीके के स्टेप्स अगर तुम आगे लेके आओगे तो वो बेनिफिशियल होंगे तुम्हारे लिए। जैसे अगर तुम्हें एक प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट मिली, तुम लोग बोलते हो ठीक है यार हम लोग पहले एक स्कीमा बना लेते हैं डेटाबेस का, राइट, ये चीज एक की पॉइंट होता है, मतलब की पॉइंट्स होते हैं, ठीक है? पहले डेटाबेस का स्कीमा बना लेते हैं, तो वो लोग ये चीज नोट करेंगे कि हाँ इसने ये चीज लाई सामने, ये चीज मतलब एक तरीके से काम हो रहा है, ठीक है, तो ये चीज वो लोग नोट करते हैं। दूसरी चीज लीडरशिप स्किल्स, इनिशिएटिव्स ले रहे हो तुम लोग कि नहीं, ठीक है, मतलब अगर कोई काम नहीं कर रहा है, मतलब वो काम किसी को नहीं आता है और तुम्हें भी नहीं आता है, तो भी तुम बोल रहे हो कि हाँ ठीक है यार मैं सीख के कर लूंगा ये चीज, ये मेरे को छोड़ दो, राइट। ये चीजें वो लोग देखते हैं, तो इस तरीके से वो इम्प्रेस होते हैं सिर्फ, बाकी तो
हाँ,
राइट।
और एक और
तो
पॉइंट है ये जो तुम कह रहे हो, जैसे अपने मेंटर से क्या बात करें, इतना टाइम ही नहीं होगा यार, सिर्फ 8 घंटे हैं उसमें, तुमने पूरा प्रोडक्ट बनाना है, डिस्कस करना है, और तुम किसी को जानते भी नहीं हो। तो ये सब चीज़ें तुम्हें अभी लग रहा है कि हम मेंटर से बात कर लेंगे, मेंटर को इम्प्रेस कर देंगे, उस टाइम तुम्हारे पास अपने काम के अलावा किसी और चीज़ का टाइम ही नहीं होगा। तो तुम सिर्फ अपना प्रोजेक्ट बनाने में फोकस करो, अपना शोकेस करना है बस, कि तुम क्या कर रहे हो बताते रहो कि मैं ये कर रहा हूँ, अपने टीममेट से डिस्कस करो, बस इससे ज़्यादा टाइम नहीं होगा तुम लोगों को बस।
right, since we're on the topic of talking to our mentors, so we have this question that, like, are there any particular skills that we should focus on for the behavioral type questions?
I don't think there is anything such like. It's up to you. Like your behavior is your behavior, right? You can't change the behavior in like 2 hours or a day or something like that, right? Your behavior is how you are. You need to present, in the raw form. That's how it is, right? So behavior
और ये
मतलब ऐसा
इसमें
भी
क्या
नहीं है
होगा
कि
कि हाँ,
you are presenting कि दोस्तों से कैसे बात करना है, don't talk like that, ठीक है? Also there are things like don't call people like sir or ma'am, something like that, right? In industry, no one talks like that. So if you are talking to CEO as well, you need to take the name only, right? You can't be like a sir, ma'am. You will be kicked out of the meeting. That's how it works, right? So uh, you need to remember that as well. Yeah, sure. I was saying, yeah.
तो मैं कह रहा था कि मेंटर से जो बिहेवियर है वो तुम्हारा कुछ उस 10 मिनट में नहीं जज होगा, तुम 8 घंटे वो मेंटर तुम्हारे साथ बैठ रहे हो, उसको सब दिख रहा है तुम क्या कर रहे हो, कैसे कर रहे हो, कैसे बात कर रहे हो, तो वो उसके बेसिस पे ही होगा। क्योंकि काफ़ी टीम्स के साथ तो ऐसा होगा, हो सकता है कि मेंटर आपको ब्रेकआउट रूम में बुलाए ही ना, तो ये भी चीज़ हो सकती है कि क्योंकि ये मैटर नहीं करेगा कि आप 10 मिनट में उसका क्या आंसर देते हो, उसने बस देखना है कि तुमने 8 घंटे में कैसे काम किया है, कैसे तुम्हारी स्किल्स, तुम्हारी सॉफ्ट स्किल्स बिहेवियर में देखी जाएगी।
Right. So, like, the next question we have is from Piyush. He says that if we get the chance to have that internship, when will this internship start and for how long will it last?
यार ये डेट्स तो वही लोग अनाउंस करेंगे, पहले तो तुम्हारी ऑर्गेनाइज हो, राइट, हमारा मैं बता देता हूँ। हम लोगों का 14 जून को स्टार्ट हो रहा है, ठीक है, और ये 2.5-3 महीने की होती है, ठीक है। और ऑफ कोर्स इसमें लीव्स नहीं होती हैं, ठीक है, लीव्स तुम्हें नहीं मिलेंगी, नॉन पेड लीव्स होती हैं। अगर तुम लेना चाहते हो एग्जाम्स के रिगार्डिंग तो ले सकते हो, ठीक है, पैसा नहीं मिलेगा उसका, ठीक है। प्लस तुम्हारे इस पे डिपेंड करता है कि तुम पीपीओ कैसे मिलेगा, ठीक है, सिंपल सी बात है। तो डेट्स का तो यार वही लोग बताएंगे जब वो लोग प्लान करेंगे, तो हम लोग तो कैसे बता सकते हैं उनसे पहले।
मतलब it depend totally depends on the situation. Like अभी जो situations हैं उसके accordingly arrange हो रही हैं। अभी like this year like मतलब internships virtual हैं, maybe next year virtual ना हो, तो there are lots of things logistics that happen. Dates का तो you need to negotiate yourself, तो वही चीज़ है।
Right, absolutely. So, Aryan is asking that do the judges also tinker with your projects or are they only focused on the presentation you're showing them?
नहीं, ऐसा नहीं होगा कि वो लोग लिंक मांग लेंगे तुमसे और वो खुद चला के देखेंगे, वो बैठे रहेंगे, वो बस ऐसे मीटिंग में बैठे रहेंगे, तुम लोग बोलते रहो, तुम्हें पूरा टाइम मिलेगा, 5-10 मिनट मिलेंगे, बोलते रहो, जितना बोलना है बोल लो, दिखा दो सब कुछ। उसके बाद उनका टाइम आता है, फिर वो बोलते हैं ठीक है ऐसा है, फर्स्ट पेज पे जाओ, ये जरा करके दिखाओ, मतलब लॉस्ट पासवर्ड करके दिखाओ, ठीक है। मतलब उस समय कुछ नहीं बोलेंगे जब तुम प्रेजेंट कर रहे होगे, बट वो पहले ही समझ जाता है कि हाँ ये चीज ये फेक कर रहा है, ये चीज इन्होंने नहीं बनाई, ये चीज बग है इसके अंदर, तो फिर वो उसके बाद पूछते हैं। अगर वो सही निकल जाता है उनका, फिर उसके बाद वो क्रॉस क्वेश्चनिंग करने लगते हैं, ठीक है, राइट। फिर वो लोग पूछते हैं कि ये बनाया कि नहीं, ऐसे कैसे हो रहा है, ठीक है राइट, तो वो लोग ऐसे करके क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछ सकते, बट वो खुद चला के नहीं देखेंगे तुम्हारा कुछ।
Okay, right. So, yeah, the next question we have is from Guni. So he asks that Code for Good is just about 8 hours, so which isn't a lot of time. Would you recommend making a prototype which is just enough for the presentation or a full-fledged project?
या देखो, 8 आवर्स में फुल फ्लेज प्रोजेक्ट तो बन ही नहीं सकता ना, ये तो भूल ही जाओ बात। तो उन्होंने, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि जो प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स होंगी, जो एनजीओज होंगे, वो तुम्हें प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट्स देंगे, वो प्रॉपर उसमें प्लान, उसमें सब लिखा होगा कि तुम्हें क्या करना है। तो उसमें ना एमबीपीज होते हैं, मिनिमम इन्हें क्या क्या चाहिए। तो तुम उस पर फोकस करो कि जो जो मिनिमम पॉइंट्स हैं, इवैल्यूएशन क्राइटेरिया भी लिखा होता है उसमें कि किस किस बेसिस पे इवैल्यूएट करेंगे वो पर्टिकुलर एनजीओज। तो तुम उस हिसाब से अपना प्रोडक्ट बनाओ और प्रायोरिटाइज करो कि कौन सा काम पहले करना है। फुल प्रोजेक्ट तो बन ही नहीं सकता ना 8 आवर्स में, तो उसकी कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं।
Right, absolutely. So the next is a very general question we have. So how many questions should one practice for a particular concept when we start studying? For example, let's say DSA, data structures and algorithms. And when should we move on to the next concept?
तो यार, डीएसए की बात करें तो देखो, कोड फॉर गुड के लिए अगर बोलूँ तो कोड फॉर गुड के सेकंड राउंड तक वो मोस्टली तुम सेकंड ईयर वालों का हो चुका होगा वैसे तो। उसी के लिए डीएसए चाहिए, उसके बाद तो वो मेन डेवलपमेंट पे फोकस करते हैं। तो उस या डीएसए का ना डिपेंड करता है कंपनी टू कंपनी। अगर मैं जैसे अब जब तुम थर्ड ईयर की इंटर्नशिप की बात करो तो उस टाइम जो डीएसए चाहिए वो अलग है। अगर तुम फोर्थ ईयर की इंटर्नशिप की बात करो उस टाइम पे जो डीएसए का लेवल चाहिए वो अलग है। तो अब जैसे तुम्हारा क्वेश्चन था कि कितने क्वेश्चंस करने चाहिए हर टॉपिक के, तो ऐसे कोई सेट क्वेश्चंस नहीं होते। देखो क्या होता है कि जब तुम कोई टॉपिक करना शुरू करोगे तुम्हें अपने आप पता चल जाएगा मेरा इस टॉपिक पे होल्ड बन रहा है कि नहीं बन रहा। अगर तुम्हें लग रहा है मेरा इस टॉपिक पे होल्ड बन रहा है तो थोड़े से उस टॉपिक के डिफिकल्ट क्वेश्चंस, थोड़े मीडियम हार्ड वाले क्वेश्चंस करो। अगर तुमसे वो हो रहे हैं तो उस पर और टाइम मत दो, अगले टॉपिक पे चले जाओ, क्योंकि डीएसए में बहुत टॉपिक्स हैं। अगर एक ही टॉपिक को लेके तुम उसके 100 क्वेश्चन करने बैठ जाओगे तो 2-3 महीने एक ही टॉपिक करते रह जाओगे। तो टॉपिक्स डिवाइड करके मेनली फोकस करो। अगर जैसे थर्ड ईयर की इंटर्नशिप की बात करें तो मीडियम लेवल के क्वेश्चंस पे फोकस करो। अगर फोर्थ ईयर पे है तो फिर थोड़ा मीडियम टू हार्ड भी पूछा जाता है।
Right.
So, like, we have another question from the audience. How should I prepare for my first hackathon? Any advice for the beginners?
Okay, so how should you prepare for the first hackathon? Like, you actually can't much prepare for the first hackathon, but what you can do is basically learn some skills that are required at the hackathon, right? That's the most important. You should learn like how to talk to people. That's the most important. If you are not like much into it, that's the most important because you are what you are doing. That's the most communication is the key. And apart from that, like there's nothing much that you should do before a hackathon. Like you should maybe practice to not sleep for 24 hours straight. That might be a thing, right? So that there's nothing much I can add, I guess.
हाँ देखो यार, फर्स्ट हैकाथॉन अगर तुम्हारी है तो मैं मान के चल रहा हूँ कि तुम्हें नॉलेज और एक्सपीरियंस दोनों ही कम होगा। ठीक है, तो अब एक चीज है, या तो तुम वहां जाके सीखो, ठीक है, और फिर बनाओ, या फिर वहां सिर्फ सीखने के लिए जाओ। ठीक है, टीम भी बनाओ अपनी और वहां पर जाके सीखो कैसे प्रेजेंट करते हैं, वहीं पर जाके यूट्यूब देखो और सीखो स्किल्स को भी। ठीक है, बस बाकी तो प्रिपरेशन उसके लिए कुछ खास तुम नहीं कर सकते। मतलब नॉलेज होती है तो बना लेते हैं, नहीं होती है तो वहां बैठ के सीखते हैं। ठीक है, तो सीखने को जरूर मिलता है, तो पार्टिसिपेट करना मत भूलना। मतलब ऐसा मत करना कि आता नहीं है कुछ भी, पार्टिसिपेट करो बट सीख के आओ कुछ।
हाँ, तो जैसे उत्कर्ष ने कहा, ये मेरे साथ भी हुआ था। जब मैंने अपना फर्स्ट हैकाथॉन में पार्टिसिपेट किया था, वो कॉलेज लेवल का ही हैकाथॉन। तो उसमें ना मुझे कुछ आता था ना मेरे टीममेट्स को कुछ आता था। तो बट इसमें मेन हैकाथॉन में क्या होता है यार, जो चीज़ तुम अगर बिना हैकाथॉन के 1 मंथ में सीखोगे ना, वही हैकाथॉन में तुम 2-3 घंटों में सीख लोगे, क्योंकि तुम जुगाड़ ढूंढोगे कि ये चीज़ जल्दी कैसे हो सकती है। तो मेरे साथ भी फर्स्ट हैकाथॉन में यही हुआ था, मुझे कुछ आता नहीं था। तो चाहे मैं जीता नहीं, बट उस हैकाथॉन से क्या हुआ, मैंने काफ़ी चीज़ें सीख ली और वो बहुत जल्दी सीख ली। मैं हैकाथॉन में मेन जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर है, तुम्हारे पास जब टाइम कम होता है तो तुम ठीक से तुम जल्दी सीखते हो चीज़ें। तुम्हें ज़्यादा चीज़ें सीखनी है कम टाइम में तो तुम्हारा आउटपुट ज़्यादा आता है। तो मैटर नहीं करता तुम जीतो ना जीतो, वो तो 1-2-4 हैकाथॉन्स के बाद तुम्हें पता चलेगा क्या पैटर्न होता है, कैसी चीज़ें बनानी है। तो फर्स्ट हैकाथॉन में जीतने के पर्सपेक्टिव से मत जाओ, सीखने के पर्सपेक्टिव से जाओ तो सही रहेगा।
Okay. So now let's take up the last question for the day. At the end of the day, we all wish to win a hackathon. So Shivam, since you have been judged in multiple hackathons, both nationally and internationally, Can you please share the judging criteria of a hackathon and what impresses you most in a participant's effort?
Okay, so when we talk about the judging criteria, like there are some of the things that are common between each hackathons, right? And there are some things that are not common that some hackathons add themselves. So the general things that I would talk about is like the idea should have some novelty to it, right? It should be doing something. It should be solving a problem, right? Another thing that comes in, it should show something that कि मतलब तुम्हारी leadership skills may show like that, or your ability to contribute back to the society, something like that. Apart from that, the judging criteria includes how much technical knowledge do you have, how much have you applied in the actual project. बाकी चीजें ऐसी होती हैं कि मतलब प्रोजेक्ट रिपीटेड नहीं होना चाहिए ऑब्वियसली. कांट पिक मतलब कहीं से उठाया गिटहब से एंड चेप दिया, दैट्स नॉट गोना वर्क ऑब्वियसली, राइट? सो यूनिकनेस ऑफ द आइडिया एज वेल. सो मतलब चीजें मोस्टली ऐसी ही होती हैं, हाउ आइडिया इज योर स्केलेबल, हाउ फ्लेक्सिबल यू आर विद यूजिंग टेक्नोलॉजीज, हाउ समवन कैन स्केल द project easily. All those stuff count as the idea. But initially, what the first impression when we judge hackathons we look for is that by whatever you have created, right, it should look like something like, yeah, it's something new, it's solving something. It's not like we are making a new game and that's in a hackathon. That's not gonna work, right? Eh, unless it's a gaming hackathon, right? So if you are going to a hackathon that has some problem statements and you are obviously solving some social impact thing, then मतलब चीजें उसी के accordingly होनी चाहिए. There should be a feel. You should tell them why you picked that idea, right? There are lots of idea, why did that touches the organization as well. Like if you make them feel that this was the idea that we liked, right, and why we liked it, what we are more towards it, or how we can improve it, you might give way forward on that project. Like after we leave it here, how it's going to work later, right? All those stuff makes sense to the judges, and they generally care about like the people know what they're talking about. You should not be like that. eh, I just created that project, I don't know anything about it, right? You should know everything about that project. When they ask questions, that's one of the important things. Like in the hackathons where there are live pitches, so the questions are the most important part, because if they are asking some question, if you don't have an answer, then you're not gonna win. That's how it works, right? So, and there are lots of things, but it depends upon hackathon to hackathon. In general, we look for something unique that has we have not seen and is solving a problem. It has some novelty. Yeah,
Right. So the cross questioning is like equally important, right?
yeah.
Okay. So the discussion was indeed very exhilarating, and I'm sure it would have inspired everyone out there as much as it has inspired me. So we'd like to thank our speakers for their valuable words and the time they have taken out to be here today. I'd also like to thank Lead for making this event possible. On that note, we would now like to end today's event with the words of Walt Disney. If you can dream it, you can do it. Thank you all once again.